With many of the core cards for Big Spell Mage set to rotate with the next standard rotation, I wanted to take a few moments to pay homage to a deck that I know I've had a lot of fun with, maybe you have as well. Big Spell Mage certainly been around for what feels like absolutely forever when I really think about when we started to play this deck. Still fun and can still win games. So if you have this deck and you're going to miss it when it's gone to standard, yeah, you can play it in some form in wild, but I would encourage you to maybe play it a last few times in standard just to really say goodbye to the deck. So taking a look at the current iteration of the deck here, you're going to notice, I believe the last video that I made, we actually included the 8 mana spell Arcane Defenders. That's not in this particular list, although it could be. So what we've seen is, at least in certain rank brackets in Hearthstone right now, Quest Druid is really popular. They tend to kill you with the Astalor combo. And having those two big 5/6s from the Arcane Defender spell can potentially put enough health on the board and in play that you may actually just not die to the combo, which of course not dying very good when it comes to Hearthstone. So you could slot this card in, and potentially what you could cut would be School Teachers, cut 2 School Teachers to be able to run 2 copies of Arcane Defender. I've chosen not to do that with this particular list, simply because, again, it's nostalgia. I'm paying homage to the Big Spell Mage, and the first version, of course, didn't include Arcane Defenders because this is a more recently released card. Rest of the deck pretty much exactly the same. You see, we do still have 1 copy of Pelican Diver. We're running this Amplified Snow Flurries, Far Watch Post, again, to slow down your opponent. Mailbox Dancer, just because the coin is really good for us to be able to coin out some of our power plays. Deepwater Evoker to draw the big spells. Grey Sage Parrot to replay those spells. Barbaric Sorceress, Belinda Stonehearth. The gang is all here. So we're going to be ready to jump out on the ladder in just a minute. Before that, though, I want to talk about the mulligan. So one of the things that I think about with this deck, and one of the key lessons that can be learned from playing Big Spell Mage in Standard, is the importance of a proper mulligan. No matter what deck you want to play, make sure that you know what the proper mulligan is, because you can be killing yourself, or killing your win rate, rather, if you're not going for the right cards in the mulligan. So with this particular deck, we want to keep Barbaric Sorceress, Insane. We're keeping the big power spike cards with this particular deck. So we're keeping the Barbaric Sorceress and Belinda Stonehearth. And I know some people are going to look at that and you're going to say, these are 6 mana cards. Why am I keeping this in my opening hand? Because the cards are that powerful. Having these cards in your hand takes you a really long way towards being able to win the game. And then in addition to that, I would also recommend keeping the Deepwater Evoker. It's going to give us the heal, we gain the armor, and then it's going to put a big spell in hand if we do have the Barbaric Sorceress, so they at least have the opportunity to have a spell on our side to switch cost with a spell, assuming our opponent is going to have a spell in hand on their side. Outside of that, you know, we don't want to keep Pelican Diver, we don't want to keep any of these cheaper cost cards. We're going to allow the game to give those to us. If we do have like a Belinda in hand, or if we have a Barbaric Sorceress in hand, then I would actually likely just keep the Mailbox Dancer, but only if we already have one of these in hand, just because having this and being able to get that extra coin to be able to get this down a turn earlier is going to be insanely strong. Outside of that, I don't think anything else is a keep. So again, just to recap, keep Belinda, keep Barbaric Sorceress, keep Deepwater Evoker, and if you have one of these big spell key cards here, then you could also potentially keep a Mailbox Dancer. Outside of that, don't keep anything else. Otherwise, you have become an absolute donkey, and you're going to be throwing your win rate straight down the toilet. And so I'm going to toss all of this. What we want to keep hasn't changed. We keep Belinda, we keep Barbaric Sorceress, and then we would also want to keep Deepwater Evoker here as well. Belinda on the coin is fantastic. We'll be able to go Okani on 4 into Belinda on 5. And we're just going to take a trade here. We don't really want the Drakefire Amulet in hand. It's going to be much better off in our deck, simply because, you know, we want to be able to draw and discount it with Belinda, and then we would also want to be able to draw it to gain armor if we find ourselves with a Deepwater Evoker in hand here. We see the Relic Vault come down for our opponent here. Potentially on turn 3, they're just going to be able to Relic Vault and play the Relic of Phantasms. It's going to put minions on the board. I think we're just going to go ahead and get down a Far Watch Post. It's going to slow down our opponent's game plan. And actually, now that I take a closer look at our hand, I think I want to play the Mailbox Dancer, because the coin from the Mailbox Dancer is going to allow us to actually be able to Belinda on turn 4, which is going to be absolutely insane. So almost a little bit of a misplay there because I wasn't paying attention to my hand. We want to make sure we keep an eye on that. And we actually see our opponent did not have the Relic of Phantasms here. So if you're ever able to get down Belinda as early as turn 4, it's just going to blow the game wide open. I think we would actually want to hit like a Drakefire Amulet. But whatever we hit, I think we probably just play that 5 mana spell on turn 5. So with this turn, our opponent, they're not really going to have a great play on turn 4 here. We can spend mana just by getting the Nightcloak Sanctum down. Doesn't have a whole lot of value in this matchup. There's not a lot of minions that are going to be hitting the board for our opponent with the deck that they're playing. So we could just play a Far Watch Post and float a mana, or we could go ahead and get down the Nightcloak Sanctum just to have it on the board. I think it's probably just a little bit better, even though we're going to float a mana, because there's not going to be targets for this, most likely. Just to increase the cost of our opponent's card. They're likely going to want to kill this. Potentially they would have like a Coin, Vault, and Relic of Dimensions on turn 5. You see now they've spent that coin. And actually spending quite a bit of stuff here. So this was a really interesting play from our opponent. Actually just dumping their entire hand. Super interesting play. And so now with a Rune of the Archmage in hand, we're guaranteed to be able to hit a Drakefire Amulet. So our opponent attempted to play as many of the cheap spells as they possibly could because they're afraid of the Barbaric Sorceress. But what they're going to be really sad to see is actually Belinda Stonehearth coming down here. Again, guaranteed to hit a Drakefire Amulet. We hit the 1/1 here. Our opponent's going to know, just because of the values of the attack and the health, that we have a Drakefire Amulet and also a Rune of the Archmage. Our opponent now also knows that likely we're going to just be playing the Drakefire Amulet. We're going to be looking for big minions and likely just going to be ending the game because our opponent's low on cards. Probably not going to be able to deal with everything that we're going to be able to put on our board here. So really great game celebrating Big Spell Mage here in this matchup. And with no delay, we're going for the Drakefire Amulet. And we just want the biggest possible minions here. Unfortunately, that looks like it's going to be Ysera. And then, of course, Deathwing. Again, just big statted minions. And the 10 damage always goes face. You never want to get confused and take a trade on the board for a minion. And that should pretty much close our opponent out of the game. I don't think they're going to be able to deal with this board. But we'll see what they're able to come up with here. Certainly, maybe Relic Vault. It just doesn't do enough damage. I don't think there's anything they have that's going to be able to deal enough damage to remove this board. So really expecting to just win here. You see the power of Belinda Stonehearth. Again, one of the cards that's going to actually be rotating into Wild soon. And we'll see what our opponent is able to put together here. Maybe they have some kind of heal, but they've already played one Unleash Fel. Second one with Spell Power is going to heal him up. But they're still going to have the same problem next turn of trying to deal with this really big board here. We also have the option of just Rune of the Archmage, but I feel like at this point that would potentially just maybe throw the game. And we see our opponent is able to heal up to 22, so that was a good play by them. And then at this point, I think, let's see, we have 16, we have 18, we have 19. Our opponent's going to be out of healing unless they have, like, the hero card. But I think at this point, we just want to get down the Blade Master Okani and block a spell. That's going to be the most likely way that they're going to be able to beat us here. So we're going to get down the Okani. We're going to go ahead and block this spell. And then I'm just going to play the Astalor. Damage goes face, face, face. Then we're going to pass it back to our opponent. Opponent's low on cards. They may not actually be able to play around the Blade Master Okani here because it is blocking a spell. So if they hit like a Relic of Dimensions or something, they can't even actually play it. And you can see here, we're just actually able to close out that game. Yes! Big Spell Mage, baby!